Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Molly.
And I'm Brett.
Welcome to our podcast, Let's Be Curious Together. This is part 2 of Neurodivergence in Parenting, and we're just going to dive right in.
Yeah, so last time we were just talking a bit about the balance, I think there's many times we've often asked ourselves, am I a terrible parent?
Yes.
And that's probably a universal question that a lot of parents ask, but we've asked ourselves specifically about some of the things that we know are our deficiencies. Is ADHD and autistic, and so there have been many times where we would say to ourselves, hey, am I a terrible parent because I'm not consistent? Consistency and executive functioning is not my strength, but I know kids need consistency. Or am I a terrible parent because I change the plan? Am I a terrible parent because
Am I a terrible parent because my house is either an absolute mess or pristinely clean?
Yep.
And there's no in between.
Am I a terrible parent because I know my kids need structure and routine, but I hate it?
Yes. Yes.
Am I a terrible parent because
my short-term memory is awful.
shot? And I use them as my short-term memory, right?
Because I need quiet, and they're loud, and this is a loud house, and how do I deal with that? I get overstimulated,
and I need to be alone, but I also want to be with my kids. So we talked about some of those. If you guys didn't hear last week's episode, recommend going back and starting from there, and we're going to kind of pick up from after that. So
let's do it.
All right. So one of our questions for today. Am I a terrible parent because I hyperfixate on things and forget, and in doing so, forget everything else?
So let's discuss the definition of hyperfixation. So it's finding something that you're super interested in, and then getting tunnel vision into that thing until you have absolutely exhausted the appetite that you have for this topic.
Which for people like me is ADHD is just like a very easy thing to do. Like we'll hyperfixate.
Yes.
All the time. All the time.
So, and for me, you mentioned I was autistic, but I do believe that I have a bit of both.
Yeah.
So I can also relate to this.
I don't remember how to pronounce the acronym, but AUDHD.
Yeah. But the most important thing is like the behavior for me, and I totally can relate to this as well, the tunnel vision and oftentimes in the motherhood thing, every mother knows if you have 5 minutes of attention on something, you are a rich woman, because there are constant interruptions and you can't do anything for more than 4.5 minutes, basically, or less. So for me, this has been a huge rub in my natural way of wanting to spend long periods of time working on something, and long periods of time, like I could spend 3-4 hours on something. I got to clean yesterday. Bubba took a nap for 3 hours, and I got to clean, and the kids were the girls were just entertaining themselves. It was shockingly it was a shocking reality for me, first of all. Second of all, it was very satisfying, and I got a satisfaction in it. So I was talking with our neighbor friend the other day, and she was saying that when you clean, if you're not able to finish the task, you don't get the dopamine release from it unless you finish it. So if you're interrupted, you don't get that chemical release of, I finished this is great, and unless you do finish it. So oftentimes for me, I don't get to finish any, and moms don't get to finish anything. They don't finish their coffee, they don't finish their cleaning, they don't finish the song playing on the radio that they wanted just to listen to. Anyway, so I got to clean
on Netflix
it's spurts. And that's why I'm shocked that moms listen to podcasts, because for me, I literally listen to a podcast for 10 minutes at a time, 15 minutes at a time. And if it's a 2-hour podcast, it takes me days. Okay. That's why I'm thinking about our audience, and I'm like, I don't know who our audience is, because it certainly isn't moms, or maybe it is, but anyway, it's just funny. Anyway, going back to the topic, tunnel vision. I do get tunnel vision, and it feels like a gift to me every time I can do something and operate in my tunnel vision. But the reality of motherhood is I'm not afforded that luxury. I'm just not. And it is a rub. It is a level of tension for me. It's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a home office because I want to be around the family and the kids.
Thank you for
I love being here. I love being here.
Yeah, I know you do.
And
we love having you.
But I'll get into my hyperfixation or my tunnel vision in work, and like, oh great. And
as you should.
As I'm tunneling down on this project and, going superhuman speed and a hot 5-10 minutes into it, hey, and
it's probably me
at my desk, someone's knocking on the door, or someone, and it's an interruption. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then, it takes me like 10 minutes to get back in the zone. I'm in the zone. And then, another 15-20 minutes, another interruption. I'm like, oh, okay, hey, and back into it again.
Yeah, the time it takes you to get back into the tunnel, say, or the zone, that's where I really feel for you working here in the home, is the time it takes to get back into the groove.
Between the interruptions, because the interruptions might be a minute, but the time to get the brain back to the same speed, it feels like I feel like it's a train, you know what I mean? Like I get the train going and then I have to just slam on the brakes and it takes so long it finally comes crashing to a halt, and I'm like, yes, what is it?
Yeah.
And then how long it takes to speed that train back up. It takes forever for the train to get back to speed. So it's like, we're finally back to speed, 10 minutes down the track, and then screeching to a halt again. I'm like,
sounds miserable.
So
what do you do, and how do you get stuff done?
I mean, I've asked myself, like, am I a terrible parent? Because sometimes I know they're with you and they're safe, and so I'm just putting my noise canceling headphones on and playing music while I work.
Yeah.
So that I don't have the screeching halts. You know what I mean? And when people come in, if it's really, I have to stay focused on this now, I'm not stopping to address everyone that comes in. I'm staying focused.
Yeah, if you ignore us, we know. We know it's serious.
I'm not looking up. I'm just like, all right, I'm staying focused. We're just going to keep working on this.
So into your office, there are 2 pocket doors, basically, with glass, which is crazy that you chose glass. And so Brett closes them when he needs privacy or whatever. And do you remember when we started closing them and I printed a sign, like a stop sign?
Yep.
And put the paper of the stop sign on the glass.
So that they stop. The kids wouldn't come in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and it reminded me too. I mean, I'm a capital offender.
Of course, the you know what they did though when you put the stop sign up, because it said "Don't come in, don't enter" or something like that. So they just plastered their faces all over the glass. They'd come over and
or they'll say, "Dad, what's this sign?" I remember they asked, "What's this sign?" So we have sought to establish that routine of when the doors are closed, we don't say anything. We don't do anything. But then the dogs, they nuzzle the door and they open the doors, and the doors open even when you close them. And then now they're open and everybody thinks they're open.
Yep.
Yeah.
Such is life.
Such is life.
Such is life. So.
Yeah.
So back to the question.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a terrible parent when you hyperfixate?
I don't feel like a terrible parent because I hyperfixate on my children. That is a main hyperfixation of mine. Mm-hmm. I hyperfixate on them, so I feel pretty good about that.
Nice.
When I desire to pursue my own curiosities and hyperfixate on something else, and I'm constantly interrupted, what I feel guilty about is the anger and frustration I have against my children for the interruption. So I've had to work on that.
Yeah.
Right? I've had to work on that. And honestly, it's a continual laying down of my rights, surrendering my preferences, and humbling myself to say they don't know better, and they're not responsible for the way that I'm wired. You know what I mean? Like, they're not responsible to take care of me
They're not responsible for your emotional state.
and my whims. Yes. They're not responsible for my emotional state in this moment that I'm frustrated. And they're not supposed to understand right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're young, they're kids.
Yeah.
And so that has been what I felt guilty about over the years.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so much better at it. But for me,
I would say it was similar for me though too.
okay.
And the feeling guilty about that part. And then feeling guilty when I do hyperfixate and like headphones on and tunnel vision, ignore everyone actively.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite comedy girls on Instagram, she's on Twitter, or I think it's Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, I'm just on Instagram. So I get the leftovers from Twitter that make their way over to Instagram. She's a comedian and she just had a baby, and one of her comedy sketches right now that she's going on is she's like doing stuff and then she'll say, "Is that the baby?" And then she'll like be doing stuff, and she's doing these things with like this internal dialogue that new moms have or whatever, and she'll stop and say, "Is that the baby?" And she'll have this like panic on her face when she's saying that. That's the state that I live in when I am in the tunnel vision. Is, are the kids okay? Is somebody crying? Like, I think that I'm missing something. Mm-hmm. I'm like relaxing or releasing my maternal duties when I'm able to just kind of ride the wave of like getting focused on something. And I'm not, I don't feel guilty about it, but it just feels wrong.
It feels wrong.
Yeah.
To hyperfixate.
Yeah.
What the positives? A reframe.
Yeah, let's reframe it.
Reframe for a second.
Reframe, baby.
I encourage you, Molly, because your passion teaches our kids what it looks like to go deep, to care intensely, and to chase curiosity. You're modeling commitment and enthusiasm, even if it comes in waves.
Commitment and enthusiasm. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's really true. So where did you get these reframes? It feels like they're not your words, but they are your words.
Yeah. Well, I had GPT help me like make them.
Okay, so they are from GPT.
I had it help me like make my pretty close verbiage sound a little cleaner.
Okay. So I just want to.
Thanks for exposing me.
Well, I feel like framing this for a second and just saying like.
My grammar is not fantastic.
Brett and I are really good at knowing what needs to be fixed. We're good at pointing out problems, okay? And I really appreciate about him that you're willing to push through that and go to a solution, right? You fix things. You're great at it. And I'm broken and I'm great at that. I'm just kidding. So both of us have this determination to push through a problem. Mm-hmm. So in doing this kind of thing and like reframing, it feels a little like robotic. It feels a little not fake, but like mechanical. But this is the reality. We do this all the time. Mm-hmm. Like this is one of our major strategies of getting through these confusing things is creating this new narrative. Okay, we're going to reframe. We're going to create a new neural pathway. We're going to
shift our mindset.
We're going to meditate on something different now.
Yeah. And I think it feels foreign to say these reframes at first because we don't feel them. Mm-hmm. And I think
it feels like you're saying other people's words.
No, what I mean is I think sometimes we give too much credit to our feelings. Mm-hmm. We give too much credit to our feelings. Yeah. The way that we feel, we give too much credit to the internal dialogue, the subconscious that's running rampant and just thinking whatever it wants to think. Mm-hmm. And we'll give way more validity to that than objective truth. Like, and third party, like rational objective truth, which is where a lot of our reframes come from, is, you know, trusted friends or counselors or, you know, whatever, saying, hey, no, this is reality, you know, and get out of your mind for a second and get out of the pattern that you keep floating around in your head as you're criticizing yourself and beating yourself up and realize this is the other half of it. Like, this is some truth here. in your reframe. And so we've really been endeavoring to keep those reframes at the forefront, like the one we said on the last episode. We're doing better than we think we are. Keeping those at the forefront.
Well, for me, I can just say, like, when I'm going through something tough or when I'm going through something that's ugly, I really need to get to the bottom of the authenticity of what is happening before I can move into an objective truth of what could be, where I could live, you know, in stepping into something fresh and new. So I think I just love you, and I appreciate you, and I know that you are the perfect person for me in many ways, but for this too, in that you're willing to go deep with me. We're willing to talk about the ugly stuff. We're willing to acknowledge this is hard, I hate it, and this is why. And then to move into, I don't want to live like this anymore. What are we doing? What do we need to change? Where are we going? Like, let's push into this. Let's drive into something new. And like, I love that because you're my ultimate sounding board. And I try to be that for friends as well. Just saying. But in like finding these like objective truths, here it is. So I'm holding it in my hands. It does feel robotic and mechanical, but at least it's not lying, and at least it's something that is a dream. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I've dealt with the reality and I've authentically been able to process how much I hate something or how difficult something is, I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
A lot of people just aren't ready for, I think, that moving into something healthier.
Right.
I don't think we all allow ourselves to get to the depths. You know what I mean? To get to the place, to get to hell, so to speak, of just acknowledging the darkest sides of reality of what's happening here and now. And for neurodivergence, we especially if you have any autistic traits or something, we need to get to the truth of where we're currently at. Otherwise it's lies.
Right.
Just going to this objective truth without processing everything first would feel like a lie.
I think one of the things that's been interesting in our relationship is us both being neurodivergent. It has been pretty easy for us to both feel understood by the other because our realities can be very similar. Our internal realities, right? Our internal dialogue can be pretty similar. How we process, how we think. The struggle for us has been, this is like a moment of transparency, but the struggle for us has been in these, reframes and in the breaking paradigms and in the seeing things differently, because, it could be like, you're like, life really sucks. I'm like, yeah, life really sucks, or this is how everyone is. I'm like, yeah, that's how everyone is. And because we're so alike in how we perceive the world, it's a lot harder for us to dig ourselves out of it. and to change, because it's not like one of us is down, the other one's up and going, yeah, no, come on, everything's all right, the world is great and shiny. We're both like, the world's really dim and dire right now, when we're both down and when we're both up, typically. And so it's been a really interesting balance to see how faith and our relationship with God has come into this, has come into play in the midst of this, that will go to him in a relationship with Christ to bring ourselves back up, and then be lend a hand to the other. And it's been kind of interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because it hasn't created a codependency necessarily in us, because neither one of us is really the answer. You know what I mean? Like, we understand each other, but we're not the answer or the savior to each other. But we're able to have this third party, God, and be like, hey, look what he has for you. And it's kind of cool to see how that dynamic is played out.
Yes, and that's an episode coming up too, is neurodivergence and faith, that I'm really excited to talk through. And I can't wait to go there with you. Will you read that statement again?
Our passion teaches our kids what it looks like to go deep, to care intensely, and to chase curiosity. We're modeling commitment and enthusiasm, even if it comes in waves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's awesome.
So, another one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Am I a terrible parent if I don't have the social energy that my kids have?
Why, yes, I think I can answer confidently. This has been a huge one for me.
Man.
Oh my gosh, when I had our first daughter, babe, I knew that I was going to let her down in this way. I knew that she was going to have the most beautiful, outgoing personality, and that I was going to fail her.
Well, not fail her, but not match her.
I'm just saying that I was going to fail her because I couldn't keep up. But yeah, anyway, so yes, this is a huge one for me.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so I just didn't want to talk over you. Sorry. I feel like I've been blabbing. So for me, with the social energy thing, we've talked briefly about it, and that there needs to be a lot of recovery time after social interactions. For me, because I spend a lot of energy in social settings, because I see and hear and feel and observe so much and so many details on such a level, and it's really hard for me to turn off. It's hard for me to be on a shallow level with people in general. When I talk one-on-one with people, I'm asking them questions, okay? And it's intense and it's weird and whatever. But in a group setting, I'm hearing conversations that are happening across the room. I'm trying not to, but I do. And then I feel body energy from people. It's just a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of input for me. So when I'm out in the world.
Let me add to that really quick and just say, I think what most people don't realize about autistic ADHD and ADHD, but especially in the autistic spectrum, like ADHD, we are hyper aware of everything, right? So like for people like me, I can hear everything going on, right? Like we sit down in a restaurant and I'm hearing like all 20 different conversations going on around me, but I'm able to control my hyperfixation to a degree.
Put it in a box?
No, I'm able to like use my tunnel vision as my own superpower if I need to. Even though I'm like hearing all the noise, I can like tunnel vision in on, let's say, you sitting across the booth, and that'll help me tone out most of it.
Yeah.
But for you as an autistic, you don't have that same ability to tunnel vision as much. Like you still get all the stimuli of everything happening around, all of the noise, all the conversations, all flooding in all at once. So the larger setting and group you're in, the larger area, the more stimuli, the more your brain is trying to like literally sort everything that it's hearing out. And that ability that most people have to like just let's look at one person and focus on one person and their voice is a really struggle for you. And that's one of the reasons it's so draining, right?
Especially when the noise level is really high. Like I love going to concerts. I love going to we've been to a hockey game or two together, like any baseball, football game, whatever. I like going to those things, but they are extremely draining, and I can't leave without a migraine because of the intensity of the noise level, but also like people who are passing me, it's like I have to look him in the eye, and when I look him in the eye, I can read a lot of things, and like so I have different strategies of how to try to deal with that, as far as like not looking people in the eye and like looking down, holding your hand, or like different things are helpful. But in general, I will say being in a group of people exhausts me, especially if they're people that I love. And say if we go to church, I love so many people at church, okay? And I'm like personally invested in it, and I want to connect with everybody. And so it's exhausting every time. But it's a worthy investment. And the thing is, the social energy of our children, like I feel like I came to terms with this really early on, in that my daughters were going to notice what I do, and it was going to rub off on them in some way. And that I had a responsibility to them to show them the path to relationship with people, because they could either be really awkward about it or they could be natural with it and they could like follow their own natural path. And I could be the one to stop them from feeling permission to follow their own impulses. Like if I was awkward and if I was like scared of people and just like being antisocial, it would put a stop to their natural. Like I just had this sense.
So you didn't want to be a stumbling block.
No.
But you weren't necessarily trying to be something other than what you were.
Right.
But you're saying, I want to try and still be me, but not be a stumbling block for them so that they can be who they are. Let me set them up to be whoever God's created them to be.
Yeah. So I would say that relationships and connection with people has been a huge area of trying, of effort for me. And I know for you too, both of us. You and I do a lot of things against our nature in this neurodivergence conversation for the people we love. Like we really do. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily people pleasing. That's a different conversation. It's literally because we love people. And when we're talking about friends, when we're talking about church, when we're talking about connections that we're making, like we love connecting with people and we really truly love people, and we talked about that before, but we will push past our natural tendencies for the people we love in the circle. So in this conversation about our children feeling guilty about not having a lot of social energy, I've gone through that whole conversation, and I feel like the place that we're in now is hugely redemptive of where I used to be. With it. And I remember just being really scared and feeling like I was going to just like block my kids' potential relationships because of the way that I was. But we kept persisting, and we have made, we've made church a consistent anchor in our life. And we haven't made excuses to not go. We have made every excuse to participate and serve and contribute. So it's basically, we've gone all in with the church. Like it's all in or all out, right? And instead of making excuses not to connect or making excuses, hey, we can just do it next week or whatever, that is an anchor of our family. We go to church no matter what. Even if we're tired, we go to church. Even if even if you and I are not feeling 100%, we're going to church. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And pushing into that has brought so much reward. The girls get loved on at church. They have adopted grandparents, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters. Like the richness that it has brought to our children has paid off all of the sacrifices that I've made, all of the ways that I've been uncomfortable in doing that. And it has just richly rewarded our family to do that. And I will say, like, I feel like the people that we have seen and invested our lives with over and over each week, of course, we see them like throughout the week and stuff too, every so often. But those people have invested such richness into our children. And it I don't want to say filled in the gaps, but yes, community does fill in the gaps. They're our tribe. Like if we're
that's why they say it takes a village to raise.
Takes a village. You find your tribe. Yes. And that consistency, like I like to joke about this, but it's 100% truth at the same time. One of the people in our lives, we interviewed Hote and Brenda. Brenda literally has taught the girls a different type of a sense of humor than what either you or I have.
Yeah.
And that was a huge heart's desire of mine, is that my children would know how to laugh, because I feel like that's a real struggle with me sometimes. And I don't honestly get humor naturally. Like I don't understand people's humor. I don't understand why things are funny. But she has been a key in developing their sense of humor in a different way. And it has just reaped so much reward. So having other people in our life and committing to them has been a sacrifice, but it's been hugely rewarding at the same time. And I am so proud of us, and I'm proud of the and proud of us, but just honestly just grateful for the reward that we've had in our life because of our push into this.
Yeah, that's good. So,
do you have any other thoughts about that?
um, I think for me, there's been an element of forgetting just social energy. I just don't have the energy my kids have. Like, social energy is one of them, but I don't have the energy at all that they have, you know. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that energy when I could get accomplished at this stage of my life. And so there's a level of I have just chosen to cut myself some slack and say, you know, I'm going to do the best I can do, and that'll be enough, you know. And there are times that I have to tell them, I'm sorry, girls, I am just exhausted.
Yeah. You've apologized to them.
I'm just tired, and I don't.
We've canceled things. We've canceled plans.
The capacity to do that right now. And then here's a plan for, you know, something else we can do, or a makeup or whatever, you know. You know, we try and keep our plans as often as we can.
Yeah.
But there are times when it's like, you know, I don't have
too much.
I don't have the energy that you have right now.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
It is okay. And, you know, a huge benefit of having multiple children is that they can spend their social energy on each other, and they are they are best friends to each other. And they have very rich relationships with each other, and they talk a lot, they interact a lot. And it's this multi age interaction too. I love teachers. I love school. But one thing about homeschooling, and like one thing that you and I hugely believe in, is exposing our children to multiple ages.
Not just peer group.
On a regular basis, not just their peer group. And I think that develops social skills, listening skills, empathy skills. I think it develops empathy at a very early age compared to the school system, just personally saying. But also just in general interactions, it really helps. So having siblings is a huge help.
Yeah.
But I will also say one ADHD thing about me is, surprisingly, I will get this like burst of energy. I'll just get like a lot of cash to spend in my energy levels. And one thing I really love to do is have kids over to the house, right? Friends over to the house. And I have been known on multiple occasions to have a couple extra kids around, and to take a couple extra kids with me on errands, to the playground, to the beach, to other places. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to borrow people's children.
With their permission.
Of course, with their permission. So this one, like, I feel like it's total ADHD impulse, like, hey, let's just add a few more, let's go to the beach, you know? And afterwards, like, you know.
Side note, sideline on that. I totally feel like it is a matter of, if I'm going to go and burn all the energy and effort to get my kids to the beach, we might as well have all this extra happening along with it.
Might as well just go all in.
Might as well go all in.
All in.
If I'm going to do this anyway.
Yes. And go at max capacity.
Yes.
And yeah.
Such
so true.
a neurodivergent.
It's, yeah. And, you know, make the most of the situation. And I think that it creates a great scenario. And then afterwards, we do need rest. And that's fair. But that's one of my favorite things to do. And, you know, no regrets at all. It's just a matter of fitting those things into the schedule. And the girls love it too, obviously. But, you know, we have people over to the house, and we go over people's houses, and we see our community and our family. But I have definitely taken a stand of, if I don't have the energy to do something, we're not doing it. And if I don't have the energy to go over to our neighbor's house, we're not doing it today. I'm sorry. If I don't have the energy to do a bike ride, we're not doing it. Yeah. And because there are certain things that are flexible, and then there are certain things that are anchors. Church is an anchor. Family events are an anchor. And so we will definitely do those things.
Right.
But everything extra, all the impulses the girls have, I just can't afford to go on a whim in their impulses.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the things we've done though too is more recently is said, ask them to write their impulses down, and then we can plan for them.
Yeah.
Instead of
that's great.
instead of doing theirs in the moment.
Yeah.
On the whim, trying to make it work.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Here's a reframe for our question. You know, if am I a terrible parent because I don't have the social energy my kids have? We help them build independence and respect for different energy levels.
Mm-hmm.
We show that love doesn't always mean high energy.
Yes.
It means consistent presence.
Yes.
In our own authentic way.
That's so good.
It's really good.
Will you read it again?
We help them build independence and respect for different energy levels. We show that love doesn't always mean high energy. It means consistent presence in our own authentic way.
It's good. One thing that we've really learned through our parenting courses is the relationship with mom and dad, authentically sharing needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like if mom and dad are able to share.
Not burdening them with our needs, but being transparent.
Being transparent with something like, I really need to rest right now. Mm-hmm. Or
I'm taking responsibility for my own needs.
Or when you lied to me, it broke my trust with you.
Right.
Or certain things like that. Revealing our hearts and revealing our temperaments, teaching us about our personality, teaching them about our personalities, honoring ourselves, that kind of thing. It's a direct way to show them to honor themselves and to honor their future spouse and to honor their friends, like internal selves.
Right.
You know, and it's not about giving into every whim. It's not about being controlled by other people. It's about honoring and understanding other people. And so we've really leaned into that a lot.
Absolutely.
My dad was somebody who he's such an emotional guy. And he often would share his heart with us, like how much he loves us, and he would cry with us, like in front of us, and when he would express his heart. And I think that's a very valuable thing, you know, and just share, you know, when it comes to, I just have an outpouring of gratitude right now. Parents should share that with their kids. They should, you know, it's okay to be emotional and vulnerable. And when things are about taking ownership of who you are, you know, within like good boundaries of like intellectual understanding and stuff like that. But I think you and I have leaned into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which feels really good.
It does. So you talked actually on schooling earlier, and this leads us to our last kind of question. Excuse me.
So the one reason, if anybody's noticed, we've been a little inconsistent with our filming. It's because we have both had this like mucus thing and like respiratory situation we've been getting through. And I lost my voice, you lost your voice, that kind of thing. So we're on the tail end.
Fully got it back.
I know. We're on the tail end of it, obviously, but it was a while. So we just didn't record.
Longer than we wanted.
Yeah.
All right. Am I a terrible parent because I don't trust the system? And this is why I chose to homeschool.
Yeah. So this is a really delicate balance because you and I don't trust a lot of systems.
There's recap really quick on neurodivergence is we're human lie detectors. We are experts in seeing patterns and inconsistencies in patterns, right? And so when people are inconsistent, it's very hard for us to see past that and trust. And so when it comes to like our kids, for instance, and their futures, and we see problems, and we see consistencies, and we see all these other issues. It's hard for us sometimes to look past all of those things and hold on to the positive of it, right? And so we're like,
and to focus on what really matters.
right, but what I'm saying is like we'll see the negatives of the school system over the positives. The negatives will outweigh.
Well, to provide a little more backstory for me, I have really, really, really worked through a huge struggle with fear in my life. So, leading up to, I don't know when exactly I got, I really kicked it in the face for the final time. But I think maybe when I turned 30, let's just say when I turned 30, I had a huge release of being really gripped by fear. And it had a lot to do with things that I was seeing and not making sense of, or the things that I felt, or the things that, inconsistencies around me, and the construct of the world.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. And probably some postpartum neurosis, or whatever you call it. So for instance, today, I bought some ice pops from Costco, and they have these organic ice pops, and I'm flipping it over, reading the ingredients, because we try not to do dyes and extra sugar. So 5 grams of sugar in an ice pop, not bad. Organic juice it's made of, not bad. Some purees, not bad. And I looked at the price, and it's on sale for $6. And there's always a voice, okay? The voice. The
skeptic came out.
The skeptic came out, and I said, it's only $6. So what's the catch?
Mm-hmm.
It's only $6. So what's in this that they're wanting to feed children, and
I don't trust it now.
I don't trust it.
It needs to be $20.
Oh my gosh. So the food system is another huge other conversation we're planning on having in nutrition and neurodivergence, but the food system is not something that we trust, or not something that I have come to really trust. So we found our balance with it or whatever, but I read that, I'm like, Molly, just shut up. Just buy these pups. Walk away. You don't have to overanalyze this.
It checked enough boxes.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing, for me, anyway, I battle the skeptic all the time. Yeah. But if we're talking about the school system, we're talking specifically about the school system?
No, we don't have to. That was just one of our talking points. But I'm a terrible parent because I don't trust the system.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, every parent has the privilege and opportunity of raising a child in their own principles and what they believe, their moral standards, and you create a system for your kids in your home, your culture.
And I think it's worth noting too, just in case anyone doesn't remember, that you were homeschooled your whole life.
Okay.
Through grade school. Well,
yeah.
Let's just talk about
I'll
upbringings
talk about my upbringing. Yeah.
So you were homeschooled.
Yeah.
For all of grade school.
Yeah.
Right. And then you did your dual enrollment and you went to university. Let's give the short versions right now. And then...
Yeah, I can do the short version. So it wasn't just about that though either. So when I was 3, my parents moved us all into a motorhome, and we traveled across the U.S. So I didn't have a home base. We were on the road. I homeschooled. When I was 15, I started dual enrollment at a community college, and I finished my bachelor's at the University of Florida, go Gators. And so I followed a very not standard pattern of upbringing in general. Right. So,
and I, on the other hand, went to school, a normal school, right?
Yeah, and elementary,
elementary, middle, and then made the switch to homeschooling, through the high school years and stuff, and so that was a later thing in life for me, which I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But it was different. Versus you, who did the opposite. You started all homeschool, and then I didn't go higher education. I chose not to go with a college, mm-hmm. but you did. So we had kind of an inverse of you doing the structured in higher education and more unstructured in your early years, and mine was very structured in the early years, and then
unstructured.
More unstructured.
Yeah.
Beyond that, right? As I just did like internships, so we had a very different perspective in this.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was a talking point that you mentioned was homeschooling. So what do you mean when you say not trusting the system? Like, what's the system you don't trust it with?
Cool. That's a big question.
Should we talk about that?
That's a big question. Sorry, I laughed like a hyena into the microphone. Oh, that's a really big question.
It's because, and for some more background for everyone else, you were a teacher. So not only were you an arts teacher at, in dance and in other stuff, you had teaching experience in studios, you had teaching experience at schools.
Yeah.
And so you've had years of teaching experience.
I've been teaching in a classroom, including dance and regular school, for 20 years. Which is crazy to think about.
That's right. So that's quite a bit of teaching experience.
Teaching is a skill. Teaching is a skill that I have.
But all that to say,
yeah,
you're technically part of the system if you're a teacher.
Well, yes.
So talk to me.
And boy, did I mask. No. Okay, so I guess I'm trying to choose like what's relevant to actually share, because I'd like to summarize, but
well, where the crossover points of what made you decide that homeschooling was better for our kids?
Okay. And I'll be brutally honest about this. And, with the understanding that not everybody can, nobody has to choose what we've chosen. It's not like that. But
this is just for us.
This is just for us. I am extremely blessed to be homeschooling my children. And I taught at one of the jobs that I had was that I taught at an elementary charter school, which is a wonderful school. And it was a huge level up for me, because one of the teacher training was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that changed my life. And I met some incredible women and men at this school, wonderful leaders, and just like, I would say, grade A bosses who had their crap together. Mm-hmm. They had their crap together, okay? Mm-hmm. Highly productive people. And, they did their jobs really well. So, and they were experts at systems, experts at creating categories, boxes, schedules, everything I wasn't, okay? Everything I wasn't.
All executive function, and you're all creative.
And so I'm like, I would literally go park myself. I would have an open hour in the day, and I would go park myself in somebody's classroom and just watch them. And I'd say, hey, can I just observe what you're doing? To learn, And so doing that, I did that for 2 years, and I just I loved it at first. And I started to notice that I think my perspective shifted when I met you and we started dating and we got engaged, mm-hmm. which was during that 2 years that we got engaged, we got married, and I became pregnant in those 2 years of working there. So my life perspective shifted, and all of a sudden I started thinking like a parent. And I started noticing from that perspective of parenthood what was happening. And the kids were getting dropped off at 8:15, and they were going home. They're getting picked up at 3:15, unless they stayed for after school activities, and then they were getting picked up at like 5:15. And some of the kids were getting dropped off at 7:30, and then they would eat breakfast in the cafeteria, and they were the early birds, you know what I mean? And they would be eating cafeteria food, and then they would eat cafeteria food again at lunch, and so the kids would go, they would be with their class, they would be with their peers all day, and they would be with their teacher, and their teacher was teaching them social rules, so, stuff like civics, like that kind of fun, amazing stuff. But their teacher was teaching them how to be human beings in a group. Mm-hmm. And their teacher was teaching them obviously like the academic stuff too, and these culture, these women were incredible. So they were amazing. Okay. Mm-hmm. but it was a specific formulated version of culture and social responsibility.
Right. And as far as schools go, this is probably one of the most ideal environments.
Yeah, charter schools are great
for any kid to be in. But even still, looking at the most idealistic version, you came to the conclusion of what?
So the conclusion was, and then they would be at school all day, and then their parents would pick them up, and then, you know, if you have like a 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 bedtime, I was noticing that parents wouldn't get more than 3 or 4 hours with their kids each day during the week. And I had a real problem with that. I think I had a conversation with a parent that gave me that perspective. And so in my heart, I was just like, no, I can't do this. I would never see my kids. Like, I can't continue teaching here, and I can't send my children here, like, to a school. And because I saw that one of the kids that I was teaching, she was in my class for dance. I was a dance teacher. And then she would take violin after school, and then she would come back to me for another dance class. So she would have 2 enrichments after school, and she was a 5:15 pickup chick. So she would cry in my after school class every single week. She would cry. And some kids do this, okay? It's hard to be away from mom and dad. It's hard to, at the end of the day, you're tired. Like, there are a lot of factors. And my heart ached for her, that she was crying for her mom, and her mom couldn't come get her. And she had to have the stamina to, like, make it throughout the day, to get to the end of the day, and still just have to do these things. And so, like, the nature of, I started just really formulating and praying through, like, the nature of childhood growth and development. I started noticing, like, a lot of the other kids, like, a lot of them were just kind of shells, like walking around, just like going through the motions. And there was a level of survivalism, if you will, that a vast majority had. And I think I could have been reading into things. I could have not been reading into things, but that's what I noticed. That's what spoke to me. And I just said, no, not doing it. So we didn't. So homeschooling.
So what you didn't trust about the system was you didn't trust the system to provide the nurturing that, you know, our kids would need. And you didn't trust the system to, say, teach the same culture that we would hope to convey and teach to our children. Thank you for
summarizing it that way. Yes. And I think you and I have talked about this before. The school system is training kids to be a 9-to-5 worker. It's getting them used to the 9-to-5 schedule. And even at a kindergarten level, okay? And it's a long day. And they are inevitably creating escapes in their mind to get through the day, coping mechanisms, like all of these other things to try to get them through the day. And that's just not something that I agreed with. And when I married you, self-employed, entrepreneurial mindset, we just decided, you didn't go to college. Like, we just decided, hey, let's do things differently. Let's be self-driven in this. Let's talk about unschooling even. Let's talk about following the natural pattern of our children's hardwired. Do they need to sleep in until 10 or 12? Do they need to get up at 7 a.m.? Like, let's see what's going to happen here.
I'm sure any parents listening, if your kids, when they're toddlers, were voluntarily sleeping until 10 or 12, you would be rejoicing. But
that's our Bubba.
Yes, our newborn does that, but our toddler and on up don't sleep in until 10 and 12. They are up early, like everyone else is.
Yeah, but when we're talking about tension points of, like, when parents grapple with their kids, it's the moments where they're dragging them out of bed to get in the van to go to school, and they don't want to because they're tired. You know, it's this, we wanted to tap into a natural rhythm.
No.
Right?
Yep.
where we could capitalize on moments of really open brain space to receive some new information and learn something new.
Yep.
And then when that wasn't happening, we weren't going to force it.
Right. And I think for me in this conversation, like this topic, and we've talked about this before, I think on the show, but it was twofold. One of them for me was also the time, like you said, you know, and I was working a lot, right? I was working a 60-hour week.
This is when you were working 60 hours a week. Yeah.
Right. And the realization of not enough time with the kids, right? Of just like you said, only getting to see them an hour in the morning, an hour at night, and that's not enough. So making that shift for myself, but then also there was this realization of the culture thing. And I don't remember who had said this to us, but someone had said this to us. It was like, you have this, you send your kids off to school and you're having someone else raise them and give them their culture and teach them about the world and, you know, values and everything, right?
That's a very
someone else
divisive statement, by the way. Just want to acknowledge that.
Okay. But I'll just repeat it anyway. So if you send your kids off to school and they're spending most of their waking hours with other people, that is their primary influence, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a saying like, show me your 5 friends and I'll show you who you're going to turn out to be, right? Whoever you spend the most time with is who you will become like.
Yeah.
Right? That's just law of the world. Like, that's just how human nature works. That's
you
how
literally start to share DNA with them, which is a whole other conversation.
But so we send our kids off, let's say 8-9 hours of the day for 18 years, or not 18 years, whatever it's going to be, 12 years.
They start at 5.
12 to 13 years, right? So for 12 to 13 years, just sending them off for 8 to 9 hours of the day or more to spend with other people and to be out in the world, right? And so then he wanted to say, and then I don't know why we're surprised or we're shocked when all of a sudden in their teens and they have a different culture than us and they don't believe what you believe in your home and they don't see things the way you see them, and you're like, I don't understand how you could be this way. And it was like, well, their primary influence wasn't you. You weren't their primary influence. You were their home, you were their parent, you were their provider, but you weren't their primary influence. They turned out like their primary influence.
Do they remember the vacations you took? Yes. Do they remember the big moments with you? Yes. But when we're talking about time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
And that was a big thing for us. We looked, that one hit us. And I know it's not for everyone and not everyone can make it work, but that was a big one for us that hit us hard. And we're like, we need to be the primary influence. And instead of this, sending our kids out into the world in the early years to fend for themselves before they know who they are and what they, where they stand and have the skill set, we're going to do the inverse. We're going to spend as much time with them at the beginning as possible to nurture them and train them and give them the skill sets they need and prepare them for the world so that when they're older and then into their teens and whatever, we can be sending them off and they're going to be that much stronger.
Or they can make their own choice to stay.
Right. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'll be stronger.
And we'll be so much more connected.
Knowing, having confidence in their culture and in belief systems.
And their identity.
And
I think parents often underestimate the influence they have over a child's identity. Their child's identity.
Right.
And I think we need to give ourselves more power. We need to adopt that more, even in the imperfections of who we are and how we're wired. And, even our own willingness to overcome who we are and how we're wired is rubbing off on our children every single day. Like, I feel like you and I are lifelong learners. Like, we're very eager, but there are things that we still need to grow in. Obviously.
Lots.
When it comes to like even understanding what we, understanding what we need to grow in, understanding what we need to tackle next. There are a lot of unknowns in the future for you and me, but you and I are trying to develop this habit of humility, this habit of connection, understanding, relationship, and we're doing the best we can with our balance, but we can't do it perfectly. And I think where the grace comes in is the humility in it. And I think that's how I would summarize just this like whole journey of neurodivergence and parenting is like, just stay humble. Like we can do this. We're intelligent beings. We can do this. We notice a lot. We're doing a lot, and we're doing better than we think we are.
We're doing better than we think we are.
But we literally only have the resources we have currently. We only know as much as we do currently. And by God's grace and his mercy, he's going to be guiding us into more.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to follow.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that we both felt convicted to do. And I think that's an important thing to note. Is this is something that we both felt convicted was the right choice for us and for our family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where it really comes down to God knowing our kids and what our kids need. And I think every family is going to be different, you know. And there might be other families that they pray about this and they feel that they're supposed to keep their kids in school, and that's going to be the right choice for them and the right fit for them, and that's great. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know, where is it in your convictions between you and the Lord? What's he saying with you in your specific instance and situation? For us, that was the choice we made, you know, and this was where we knew we needed to be, but everyone's going to be different, and that's okay.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's okay.
Are we terrible parents for wanting to do things differently? I don't think so. But, you know, we're only 10 years in. We'll see what happens.
We are. Yeah. We'll see how many more children come.
We'll see how they turn out. It's all just an experiment. We're just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. So I just want to throw it out. I would like to know what your biggest parenting revelation has been. I mean, just if we can summarize a big one, please comment, please interact. We'd love to hear from you, and just to keep this community growing and learning together. And yeah,
let's continue being curious together.
Let's be curious together. Yeah, we're dorks. Okay. Have a good one. See you later.
See you guys next time.